We'll cross to Melbourne soon to speak to journalist Paul Walsh in regards to Novak Djokovic, who is out of the Australian Open. Unbelievable performance. He's lost at the Australian Open for the very first time since 2018.
That's right. Over 2,100 days since his last loss. This is just incredible scenes. And Djokovic, a master at the Australian Open, and now I don't know if he was playing at his 100%, and that's what I want to say. The first set, losing 6-1, second set 6-2. He didn't look like he was in his elements. Absolutely lazy. Probably he's tired. Probably unwell. There's something wrong with his play. But whatever it was, definitely not in his favour.
If you did see any of it, you can let us know. 0586861003. It was Djokovic who lost. He ended up going down 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3 as Sinner. Jannik Sinner regrouped from not taking a match point in the tie-break. And it ends Djokovic's bid for a record-extending 11th title and a 25th major to put him clear of Margaret Court. Now, Jannik Sinner, he's up against the Russian third seed Daniel Medvedev or the German sixth-seeder Alexander Zverev in Sunday's final. But for more details on this, we are joined by Paul Walsh, the journalist who is in Melbourne for the Australian Open. Paul, happy Australia Day to you, and thank you very much for joining us here on Talk 100.3. Good to speak to you.
Kitch, it's been a big day here. It's been a big day here at Melbourne Park, I can tell you. It was an upset that we weren't looking for, that first semi-finals, the clash between Sinner and Djokovic, and it was one that came from left field, I must admit.
Yeah, I mean, no one expected Djokovic, to lose in this fashion, 6-1, 6-2, and in the fourth set, 6-3. This is so unlike a Djokovic game.
It was indeed, and the thing, Neil, with it was that if you've been watching the Djokovic games over the last couple of weeks, when he's down, he gets very down on himself, and he gets very angry, and he yells at his box and does all sorts of things. He didn't do that today. He just almost seemed to be content with the fact that he was just being outplayed by a better player. His body language was really, really interesting. As you say, 6-1, 6-2, he hardly had a chance to breathe before Sinner had taken those first two sets. He got his composure back a bit in that third, but then in the last set again, Sinner just ran away with it. It was most uncharacteristic for Djokovic. He said it afterwards that it was the worst match he's played in a slam ever, and that's saying something.
Well, for many people, they've been wondering why the next generation haven't been able to stop Novak Djokovic, particularly at Melbourne Park. Given that Jannik Sinner has beaten him twice recently at the ATP finals and the Davis Cup finals at the end of the last season, do you think that gave him, they were in 3 sets, but do you think that must have given him some inspiration to know that he can conquer Novak in 5?
No doubt at all. I'm sure it did, Kitch. But the other thing is, too, I think that you need to have a look at Djokovic's run through the last couple of weeks. He started off with a 4-setter in the first round. He had a 4-setter in the second round. Uncharacteristic for him not to run through those first early rounds. Okay, the third one against Echeverry was a 3-setter, but it wasn't all one-sided. And then, of course, Mannarino he beat easily. Fritz was a 4-setter. He himself says that he hasn't been himself for this particular tournament. Now, is it because he's 36 going on 37 in a couple of months? Is it because the others are catching up? It's hard to reconcile, but I don't think there was an injury there. He had a wrist problem earlier in the campaign, but I don't think that was the problem. Maybe age is catching up with him. Maybe the next gen are catching up with him as well.
You mentioned about the next gen catching up, and this probably is their last opportunity for any of the veterans of the game to show and raise a flag. The youngsters are coming through: Medvedev, Zverev, Sinner, Alcaraz, all of these guys. Now, who amongst these has the potential to become the next big thing in the world of cricket? Someone like a Djokovic, someone like the Federers and the Nadals have been.
Yeah, I was disappointed the fact that Carlos Alcaraz wasn't able to go further in this particular tournament, because I think he's the boy most likely. I think he's the one that's got the pizzazz. He's also got the advantage of having a very good game on clay. similar to Rafael Nadal.
Right.
He could play all surfaces, but he was very, very strong on clay. Same with Carlos Alcaraz, and it was just disappointing the other night that he couldn't keep going through, but I think he's the standout at the moment, and the way Sinner's playing at the moment and the way he's built up his campaign over the last couple of weeks, you cannot discount him at all as being one that could be around for quite a while as well.
Well, he's the first Italian man to reach the Australian Open final. He's the third Italian man to reach a slam final in the Open era. But I think what he'll be happier is that he's one of only three players, Paul, alongside Federer and Rafael Nadal, to beat Novak at a Grand Slam, at Davis Cup, and an ATP Finals. The home crowd's important. Who do you think the crowd at Melbourne Park would most likely support in a final?
I think if it comes down to the fact that it looks like it's probably going to be Alexander Zverev and Sinner in the final, I think they'll gravitate towards Sinner, to be perfectly honest.
Well, Melbourne does have a big Italian population, so that could be a distinct possibility. We're looking forward to the year. We didn't see a good start to the year for the man Rafael Nadal. Do you think he's going to be able to come back sometime during the season?
Yeah, interesting. Just an interesting stat when you mention Novak Djokovic and then Rafael Nadal. Throw in Roger Federer as well. Do you realise that the final this year for the Australian Tennis Open, it'll be the first time since 2006 that there hasn't been one of the big three in the final, which is quite incredible.
It's been a phenomenal tournament, and I think this is the first one where the next generation have come through again. We appreciate your time. It's staying up late on a Friday public holiday in Australia, so we do appreciate your time. And Paul, thanks very much for joining us to discuss Djokovic and the Australian Open.
No worries. Look, I just chuck in one other one that might be of interest to your listeners.
Sure.
Rohan Bopanna, the 43-year-old,
Yeah.
who's never won a Grand Slam doubles title, is up with his younger partner, 36-year-old Matt Ebden. They're in the final of the men's doubles tomorrow, and also they are now ranked 1 and 2 in men's doubles in the world. Quite a phenomenal stat for a 43-year-old and a 36-year-old. And I tell you what, if you reckon that the Melbourne Park crowd are going to be backing Sinner in the singles, you can be dead set sure that they'll be backing Rohan and Matt in the doubles.
Yeah, Paul, Neil's been reminding me that every single moment for the past 2 days.
See, we Indians don't really get too many opportunities to boast our stats in the Opens, right? So when we have, well, we drum it up.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Keep an eye on those results over the rest of the weekend, because I think it's going to be some pretty good tennis here at Melbourne Park.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you very much again. There's Paul Walsh, who was staying up late Friday nights in Melbourne to discuss those results at the Australian Open. And yeah, what about that? It's the first final not featuring Federer, Nadal or Novak Djokovic since 2005.
Wow, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that talks about the legacy that these guys have created. You know, the kind of stronghold that they had across all the slams, and now is their opportunity for some of these youngsters to break open those gates and try and create a legacy, something similar for themselves.
Yeah, it is going to be an amazing weekend of tennis, and the women's tennis as well sees Sabalenka be the first player to reach back-to-back women's finals since Serena Williams did it across 15, 16 and 2017. TSB, Talk Sport Business on Talk 100.3.